pronounced master, who is our true heart. Dear sisters and brother preceptors, who are the arteries of the mission. The next time allotted, whatever I say relevant, take it that it comes from him. Anything else, please pass it on to me. A few of us, Abhyasis, preceptors, and a few friends of us, about a month back, started a dieting program in Chennai and across India. This involved only eating a certain pattern of food and all that. And it so happened that this entire program was to end on Tuesday, the day on which we were all supposed to come here. And we all had made elaborate plans and arrangements that when we land here for next 5 days, we are going to have a blast. We had made how to have the pizza in the Italian restaurant, the masala dosa, and in the urge to keep the hunger going, we skipped the breakfast on 27th morning, and we all said we'll assemble and meet at this place to carry on and have whatever comes to, whatever you feel like eating. And then Saab dropped the bombshell. 5 days of fasting. And actually there was sort of an innuendo here. There are a few people who used to make fun of us that you're all grass eaters, literally. We eat only vegetables and this stuff. And almost it was nice to see 2,500 people doing that for the next 5 days. But the fun may not end here. In all probabilities, we all think that tomorrow he is going to tell us it's all over, and don't be surprised if he comes and says, please continue for 2 more days. We are mentally geared for that. I am going to share quickly 3 analogies, 3 situations for you to ponder, and then combine a few points, because preceptors normally are extremely sensitive and you will quickly understand the point that I would like to drive in. Situation 1. Imagine that your father had left behind a huge fortune in a bank locker for you. And you used to go to the bank locker and operate it. And those who are familiar knowing how bank lockers operate, you know that you carry one key. And when you go there, the bank manager has to give you another key, and both together will have to open the vault for you to look or take whatever you want. The process in between, what happens in this scenario 1 is that this bank manager got transferred. The next manager has come in who doesn't know you, or you don't yet have a connect with him. And you go there and he refuses to give the key to you. Imagine what is the basic logic you have to apply. Situation 2. Imagine that you have thousands of shares of any blue chip companies that you can imagine. Real prime shares, market is continuously going up. And one day you find that some of these blue chip company shares that you have been acquired by some other bigger company. What do you do with these shares is the situation number 2 for you to understand. And the situation 3 is something that happened to a few of us who came together on the evening of 26th to Kanha. We checked in a flight, and surprisingly, we were assigned in Chennai airport gate number 13. And we were all having a fun time, saying that, see what Saab has given us. He has already blah blah, he has put us there. And within 15 minutes, something very strange happened. They changed the gate, and the gate became gate number 1. All these 3 situations apparently point to one single thing, which I'll share a bit later. In 2013, during the days when Saab was the vice president and he used to be in Manapakam, regularly used to conduct a 9 o'clock satsang, and as many satsangs as he had time to conduct. After one of the satsangs, he was looking very, inwardly drawn. And we were just walking back to cottage where Charity was there. And near the ramp, he suddenly stood there, looked at me and said, Prakash, what do you think happened to all those Abhyasis who are in the time of Lalaji Maharaj? Obviously, this was a bouncer, because all these concepts that he shared these days were not that well known to many of us those days. And obviously, the best way was to keep quiet. And then, as he walked another 2 steps, he said, once Lalaji Maharaj left, the subtle bodies that he had associated with all his disciples had gone back with him. And many of them did not, as we were going through the whispers that we heard, many of them did not accept Babaji Maharaj as their master. Hence, Babaji Maharaj was not able to allow his subtle bodies to be attached to them. So, being a stupid disciple that you are or I am, I asked him a very fundamental or apparently a stupid question. I asked him, Sahab, don't you think that Babaji Maharaj could have just made his subtle body to be attached to these people for them to get the full benefit? He just looked very sheepishly and sort of gave a smile which was fully loaded. And he said, masters have an etiquette. Assuming you are in their house and he has given it on rent to you, and he comes and the door is locked, do you think he's going to force open and come and sit with you inside? Unless you open the door and allow him inside, knowing actually he is the original owner. It is something that set me really thinking. In the last few months, something very strange started happening in some of the sittings that I started observing. Not that it was not there before. It was that whenever I gave a sitting, I found while I was wanting to read the position that there were 2 distinct positions which was being continuously shown. It was a bit confusing, and some of them were preceptors. When you are a preceptor, it's the basic assumption that already you are in the 6th point. And I found that in some of the cases there was a lower point which was continuously glowing, and I felt maybe my reading is either wrong or there are 2 points which are getting reflected, and I just left it at that. But when I started doing this with several other sittings, abhyasis, preceptors, whatever, I found this coming through. And with this thought, I came to the Basant, which was about 1.5 months back. In this Basant celebrations, one of the sister abhyasis came and shared something very poignant. She also said, I also have been finding this happening. And she shared one specific input saying why she felt this was happening in the sitting she was giving, which I will come to a little bit later. And I didn't have the time for me to open up this topic with Saab during that time. Basant was quite heavy. I went back. And Chennai being what it is, there are several preceptors who have long experience in being in Sahaj Marg in these sittings. I met a few of them, including some of the newer preceptors, and just put forward this question saying, why do you think this is happening? Each one came out with their own interpretations, inputs, saying that this might have happened because of this or because of that. Many of these inputs were very interesting. We could not yet find out what was causing this. So what we felt is that we'll start a plan of action, and the plan of action was based on this startling input that sister had given to me, that in her systems, in her sitting, she found that the consciousness of the abhyasis, in management parlance, we call what is known as a learning block. The learning block is called as unconscious incompetence, or that you are not aware that you are not aware, which is very dangerous. If I am a sugar patient, I am not aware that I am a sugar patient, it's pretty dangerous. I can't take care of myself. This, when we looked at it, we found out many of these abhyasis, their consciousness was not connected or filled with the living master. Our reading, may be right, may be wrong, we don't know. And we felt that there has to be some work which needs to be done. So whatever techniques we had already learned through these preceptor masterclass videos and through the personal interchange that we had with the masters, we started doing whatever work we could. One of the things that all of us would know, that even you saw as a slide just before a little while ago, is to do the chitlake cleaning. And as the consciousness gets cleaned of the layers of your past connections, of memories or remnants of the masters that you are associated with, there's a huge resistance initially that was happening. I'm very sure some of you in your respective centers might have found out this as well. And as we were doing over a period of time, at the end of the sitting, initially the resistance was so huge, it was almost like there was a rebellion. It was being repelled. People were sort of throwing back and they are not aware. And at some point of time, at the end of the sitting, initial sittings were taking almost like 45-50 minutes before the consciousness would allow us to put something in. And towards the end, we put this godly particle concept and put the living master as a godly particle inside and allowed that to expand so that the consciousness of that Abhyasi who has come for the sitting is fully expanded with the connection with the living master. Right or wrong, I don't know. We continue to do this. Surprisingly, something happened. After 2-3 weeks, many of these Abhyasis and preceptors to whom we give sittings started coming back and saying something very interesting. Two things they say. One, many of the sittings they started actually feeling or seeing the presence of Daji. Two, which was more for us very satisfying. There was a few preceptors who started doing this work, absentia, remote, group sittings, individual sittings, and there was a huge amount of support from many of the senior preceptors. We found out that many of them had started developing dreams where they were able to see Daji, which was not all along happening. If it was happening in about 1.5-2 months, there was something. But we felt this was not it answering one question which we still had, which is why is it that someone's point gets reflected in 6 or 7 as well as in 2 or 3? 2 days ago in the evening satsang that Master was conducting here, and I went with this question, please answer because I am not able to understand. Maybe others, I am not able to understand. I had been literally crying inside that, please, because it's stopping from us doing the work that you want us to do. And what happened at that point of time, I found out that there is something that he has given, which he also read out in the whispers, which I later realized, that something called as an earned point, and there is something called as a reflective point. The reflective point is the grace of the Master because he likes you or blah blah, whatever he gives you. But it is not for you to own. The earned point, which is a second or third or first or fourth, is because of the practice that you have put in, month after month, year after year, knowingly or unknowingly developing the constant remembrance and love for the Master to the best extent we can. And then we found that there is still a gap. The reflective point was still always higher than the earned point, the RP, EP, whatever you want to call it. I shared this with Saab and he neither said yes or no, but I felt there was a revelation which happened to me. And I felt that being arteries of the mission, there is something that we need to do. The first question that we need to ask each and every one of us, have we left whatever needs to be left behind and completely got connected, rooted to the living Master? It's a question for us to think, ponder and ask. I don't know about myself, it's for him to answer, but each one of us can ask ourselves, have we crossed the bridge? Have we done so that when we sit and give, we actually are connected to the living Master? If this happens, how can we actually enhance this process, both for us and for the Abhyasis who are coming to us for sitting? Fortunately, in the last 2 days, Saab gave several messages in which they were very poignant messages in terms of how to expand the capacity, how to enhance the acceptance of the living Master. There are several techniques which have been shared. It's for you to go back to the notes and study and start practicing all of them. When we go back, we get as many Abhyasis as possible. Do a lot of absentia, do a lot of remote sittings, wherein we start doing in some way so that there are no blocks between the Abhyasi and the Master, so that we as arteries, we ourselves don't become the block. We also don't allow an Abhyasi to be blocked because he or she does not yet get connected because they haven't understood the concept of a living Master. If this is something that we can internalize, before we go back, I felt this is something that would be of a great use to each and every one of us. And we carry forward this work. There is one thing that we can do in the satsang that is going to happen right now. That as Saab comes in, let's all put a prayer to him. That please enable us to go back and ensure that the connection to the living Master is made in the fastest way possible. So that everyone becomes a perfect instrument in their hands, in his hands. And also, in case if there is a barrier inside of me which still gets me hooked onto, because I am from Babaji's time, I am from Chariji's time. I am one, I have been with the old man for 21 years, so I know what it means. It's not easy to give up. Yet, connection to the living Master, if that is something done, we have to pray. And if this satsang becomes one where we all put our hearts together and pray to him, please give us the guidance, how we become the perfect artery so that the blood flow to the heart back and forward is not stopped. And also ensure that the Abhyasis to whom we give sittings, this is also enabled. This is a small thought I thought I will share.